I have the pleasure today to talk about the gift I've been given, and some of the cadets have heard this before. If you ate lunch and I was over there, but it probably, I was telling Shrek, I'm only the same because I don't know what I'm going to say. I don't have a prepared thing, so it's kind of stream of consciousness stuff. So maybe there might be something different or a different story. But what I want to do is talk to you today about what I did, my background, and the only reason, and not that that's important, but what I want to try to tell you is where I was when I made the decision to leave the Air Force and then the Air Guard. And yesterday I realized that what I did a phased withdrawal. What I did, I didn't even know it, but looking back, that's what it was. And then for 15 years or so, in the civilian community practicing law, there was a void. And then I talked about the second chance I've had, and what an incredible 6 years it's been, and how grateful I am for this opportunity to be here and be part of something that's a lot bigger than myself and it's very worthy to be a part of. So, I went to the academy, and I always, first I talk about the MOM because that's really probably the only thing I did of note here. I certainly one of the dean's favorites, but I finished okay, but not so good. You know, I think I had 2.67 GPA or something. So, but I enjoyed the military life at the academy a lot, and I was a group commander the last year at the academy, and it gave me an opportunity to exercise, frankly, in the Air Force. And I'm going to say this: I actually exercised more leadership in the Air Force my last year at the Air Force Academy than I did in the first 8 years in the Air Force, just because trying to lead pilots is like trying to herd cats. I mean, everybody's so independent, and you can kind of suggest things to them. They'll tell you to screw off, and you know they're going to do it their way, and that's okay, that's fine. But I mean, but at the academy, I actually had a leadership opportunity, and I enjoyed that. And at the academy, I felt, and I did when I came to the academy, by the way, I had never been in an airplane. The first time I was ever in an airplane was 1969, boarding a Braddock jet out of Dallas Love Field to come up here. And then we circled around Colorado Springs, and I couldn't believe how brown it was. I mean, golly, it looks like it was the desert out here. We landed, and then I wasn't treated very nicely for the next year. It was, I was very surprised they didn't treat me so nice. And as a matter of fact, I actually wrote my senator, I had a senatorial appointment, I said, do you know what's going on out here? How I did. I thought, they really call you some horrible names and stuff. So, anyway, but I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. I was one of the few cadets that enjoyed my 4 years here. I did. I had a great time. What a place to go to school, and it was free. And my dad had a college education plan for me of either win the lottery or get a scholarship. So I was able to, get scholarships. That's pretty cool. So I enjoyed my experience. And the reason I'm saying that is because, or telling you that is, when I left here, I actually was pretty sure I was going to stay in and make it a career. I was pretty certain of that at 22. I thought because I had done well here, and by the way, I'm going to share some stuff with you which I'm not necessarily proud of, these thought processes, but I'm going to share them with you because I think if you've had thought processes like that, I'd like for you to be able to listen to me in a sense and put them in perspective. Because, see, I thought I was going to be successful in the Air Force in this sense. I thought because I'd been in an environment which basically represents kind of a broad-based, across-the-board leadership spectrum of the Air Force. Groups of people are prepared that way, and I'd done well there. I thought that I was probably, if I kept doing well, do okay in the Air Force and perhaps make general officer, and really after I got into it, I really did want to lead the United States Air Force in a desperate air battle over the Fulda Gap. I used to think about that, and just killing Soviet guys, and thought that'd be pretty cool to do. So I kind of went through pilot school wanting to be a fighter pilot, but that was taken out of my hands. I was made to be an IP because I wasn't good enough to be a fighter pilot initially on my own. You had to be in the top 10%, and I was in the top 30%. So I was selected to be an IP, which turned out for me to be the best thing that ever happened to me. I got the chance to go teach people how to fly fundamentally in this airplane. And for the pilots in here, you will learn, there's two ways to learn how to fly, and that's to fly or to try to teach somebody else how to fly, and you really learn how to fly. And if you're not a natural pilot like myself, and I'm not, I had to work at my flying, you learn techniques and things to nail parameters, and it can help guys, and then later young women, because we had women come through our program, I could help them with mechanical stuff that made flying easier, because I had to work at my flying. So then I got to go, well, after pilot school, I flew, go ahead. That airplane, yeah, the T-38, which is, gosh, that's a great airplane. Hey, Chief, how you doing? It's still, still in the inventory, and what a lot of fun. It's really a lot of fun. You guys are gonna like that in pilot school. Next, they got to fly that airplane, and man, that was a kick. It was a wonderful airplane, and I was with the 27th Tactical Fighter Squadron, and I was very grateful to be with such a humble group of guys, you know. We were pretty shit hot, you know, we were. And I'm sorry, but it probably won't get much worse than that. But I was pretty full of myself, all right? And we get to wear the scarf, that's pretty cool, you know. And our squadron commander, on Friday afternoons, we knock off flying, and this one you could drink. It was okay to drink. At one time in the Air Force, you could drink. And so on Friday afternoon, he'd come in with a big old bottle of Jack Daniels, and now get this for the mixture, a big old bottle of tequila. And he'd break the seals, and then we'd put on training films, and I won't go further than what training films were, because some of you guys know what training films were. We'd watch that, and then he'd drink, and then mark with a grease pencil, and pass around the room. And so we'd kill both bottles, and then we'd go to the officers club and drink more, and then we'd go drive. And because see, by the way, if you drink, and then they won't tell you this at the academy, but the real truth is if you drink a lot and get real drunk, you can go drive in formation, and you're really good at it. We would drive in formation. I mean, why we never hurt somebody? But anyway, we did, and of course I'm not endorsing that. I think, how stupid was that? But anyway, we did it. That's what happened. Then I got out, and I'll come back to why I got out. But I got to go fly this airplane in the Air Guard, in a neat airplane. It's the A-7D Corsair. The nickname is the Slough. Won't go into that either, but it's a great bomber. First time I ever tried to drop a bomb, and I was an air-to-air guy who would never drop a bomb, because that's just beneath me, but I had a ball dropping bombs. And the first time I tried to drop a bomb, 6 meters from the target. And you know what? You hit 6 meters with a 500 or 1,000-pound bomb, it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. So it's a great airplane. It had an inertial nav system. Didn't have afterburner, and so when we get in dogfights, it wasn't like the F-15 where you're always in burner. You got the throttle, you know, as far to the left quarter as you can get it, and you're looking this way because you're always looking over your left shoulder because you're left-hand turn, right? So you're looking over your left-hand shoulder and doing this and this and at the gas gauge and watching it do this. That you could go forever. Just a great airplane. And we also got to go to 100 feet legally. We also went 100 feet illegally in the F-15, but legally we go in this, and it was kind of cool to go in and make pops and stuff. So loved it. I absolutely loved it. But this happened, and I'm going to get to this point here. I got disenchanted in the Air Force. I'm going to talk about my disenchantment. And some that this may affect, this may even be how some of your cadet careers have come to this point, and it will happen to you in the Air Force. And believe me, I know it'll happen. It happens to junior officers in the Air Force. You go in the Air Force and you're going to change the world, and you're going to be part of something really big, and you're going to be doing something important, and then reality hits. And the fact of the matter is you're still doing something big and you're still doing something important, but you don't necessarily understand you are. That's really what's going on. You really truly don't see the big picture. And if you're as focused on yourself as I was, and let me say, that's why I went through that background and explained to you the predicate about how I was going to be a general officer and stuff like that. If you're focused on yourself and you're full of yourself to some degree, then it's much harder to see that you're part of something great. It really, truly is. At the academy, I was always pretty optimistic. Even into flight school and as an IP, and when I was here, and the few days I've been here, I actually still see it. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with it. I'm just going to point it out to you. Your institution is a very competitive institution. You have an academic order of merit, you have a military order of merit, you have the SOUPS list, you have the PFT. I'm pretty sure that competition is a very real important part of this place, and I support that. But I want you to understand, you're only as strong as your weakest link in any organization, and anybody that's been around really truly understands that. It's okay to pursue excellence. It's not okay to pursue excellence at the expense of someone else and leaving them behind. All right, not carrying necessarily if they are alongside up to speed with you. So at the Air Force, in the Air Force, I strove, I don't know if that's a word, I tried to be the best I could be, so I wanted to get a fighter, so got to Williams Air Force Base, instructor pilot of the year, you know, junior officer of the quarter, all that stuff. Went to SOS. I was told if you do real well at SOS and become a distinguished graduate, it helps you at your next assignment. And as a matter of fact, it did. The commandant there at SOS, he got to know me, and when I wanted an assignment, he came to me, so what can I do to help? I said, how about calling your friends and wherever you have friends and tell them that, you know, when it comes time for my assignment, Stayton be a good F-15 guy. And I don't know how I got it, but I bet that didn't hurt. I bet it didn't hurt. So I got an F-15. So I get to Langley, and I'm the same deal. I'm gonna do real well. I want to be a below the zone major. That's a cool thing, and it tells me I'm on my way. So I get to be flight lead, and I'm doing well in air to air. And the guys there's 3 squadrons: the 27th, the 71st, and 94th. They elected me the junior president of the Junior Officers Council, and they wanted me to go talk to the wing commander. And I've said this before, I actually thought that'd be a good job to have, because the president of the Junior Officers Council in the Air Force generally meets with the wing commander once a month and tells them how things are going from the junior officer's point of view. I actually thought that'd be something that would be important. And I foolishly thought the wing commander would want to have my input. And he could care less what I told him about, and I found this out. Because what happened between 78 and 81 at Langley, and some of you guys have been around, we had a different view of the military in that time frame. We'd come out of Vietnam, there were cuts being made. We had 76 brand new jets, brand new F-15s on the ramp at Langley Air Force Base. And at any one time, by 1980, when our ORI is coming up, our operational readiness inspection, which is how they measure if you're ready to go to war, as it approached, we had any one day we could generate 15 or 16 fully mission capable jets. Now, I don't know how you guys feel about that. We found it to be offensive. Matter of fact, we talked like the nation and the Air Force wasn't really serious about defense. We talked about that, and I don't think you could blame us for that. If we've got a brand new weapon system, we've got, what, 20%, no, less than that, 15%, 18% are actually able to go to war. We felt that there was only lip service being paid to the defense of our country. So I got a list of grievances from these, and by the way, not only grievances, because the thought was, we'll tell the wing commander what's wrong, and we're going to give him some ideas how to fix it, because that's what we do. We learn that, right? We can always identify problems, because I've just sitting in the chow hall over here, I've heard a lot of problems about things, but then you also, what you really need to do is then try to give your boss or who's ever can do this an idea of how to fix it. So I come in and I salute, and he knows who I am. I mean, I've flown with him and stuff, but I'm starting to tell him what we're thinking about the ORI, and we've got no bombs, bullets, no, certainly no bombs, but no missiles, bullets. We've had broke airplanes. We have 19-year-old crew chiefs that don't know anything about the jet, that sort of thing. And we have some ideas to fix it. Before I could get to the ideas to fix it, I get stopped. And Colonel Miller, he says, "Captain, you don't see the big picture, that we are going to do much better than you thought in this ORI." And then he lists why we were wrong. And I'm sitting there, and I am so angry at this, because he really was wrong. And he wasn't listening to me. And I'm going to tell you, that's part of it. I mean, I'm looking back. I didn't think those thoughts, but looking back, that's part of my anger. I got up, saluted, and I walked down and went over to personnel, and I started the process on getting out of the Air Force. And my goal was to bring the Air Force to its knees, and have them completely shut down operations, and we would just contract out all Air Force activity to the Navy or private situation. And I wonder how that worked out for me. Didn't do so well. So, and no, really, I foolishly thought that, well, they're going to miss me. Yeah, they missed me. So, by the way, on the ORI, just to let you guys know, I haven't told this part of the story, Shrek. I've told this a couple times, but that ORI we're talking about. About a month later, the ORI team hits, and so they give you a problem, and they tell you to generate 24 aircraft in 24 hours. So that's what the deal. At airplane 13, the ORI team knocked it off. The reason being that safety standards were being violated to such an extent they thought someone was going to get hurt seriously. So, needless to say, and I've told this before, nothing good comes from an ORI ever, because if you pass an ORI, you've just done your job. But some bad things happened at the ORI, and it really affected the whole wing. And so actually Colonel Miller left before I did. But I processed out. I found an A7 slot, because it was pretty easy to get a fighter slot in the Guard with air-to-air experience. And I'd taken the LSAT, and I'd done pretty well on it, so I was able to get a law school slot. So I got out, and that was phase one of my withdrawal. I got out of the Air Force, but I could still serve my country in the Air Guard. And I could still go out and fly, which was really cool. They said, don't work in law school, it's too tough. That's bull. If anybody wants to go get an advanced degree, that's the degree to get. I mean, law degrees are, that's why I got so many lawyers. So they'll tell you how tough it is. I had the greatest time socially in my life in law school, so it was just fabulous. And I was flying. 10 sorties, 12 sorties a month while going through law school. It was great. Anyway, graduated from law school, kept flying with the Guard. But here's the next part of the problem. I also wanted to defend the country, and candidly, it didn't appear like the country needed defending by the mid-'80s, late '80s, because the Cold War was winding down. And for all you people that are my age or a little younger or older, our primary threat from about 1946 on was the Soviet Union. And that's all we talked about. Even in Vietnam, it was the aspect of a communist state, which the mother of all communist states, the Soviet Union, sponsoring it. That was really behind our commitment to Vietnam to stop the domino effect, because if Vietnam fell, then Thailand would fall, and then South Korea would fall. All these things, we believe in the domino effect, and there may be still some validity to it. I don't think that's just necessarily horse manure. It's been some discredit of that theory, but still I think there was something to it. So all of us in the Air Force and in the military in general believed that our true threat was the Warsaw Pact, and in general, and the Soviet Union in particular. But by the mid-'80s, with the Détente, things had started kind of calming down, and by '87, '88, it was group hug time, guys. I mean, we were, kumbaya. The Berlin Wall falls, and everybody becomes a democracy, and I'm sitting there going, what's up? I mean, I enjoy flying, but, I don't feel like the country needs me. So I did phase 2 and got out. And, looking back, it's the kind of decision a 37-year-old would make. I didn't need the retirement. That's pretty stupid. After 15 years, you look at that and go, what are you thinking about? Because, boy, as I'm approaching retirement age, well, that kind of sounds nice to have a retirement check. But frankly, at that time, it didn't matter to me. I was a lawyer making money and stuff, so it didn't matter. And by the way, it still doesn't matter, because it's not that big a retirement check. But I was okay with that decision, because I'd lost my sense of purpose in the military, okay? So practice law for the next 15 years, try all these cases, go around the country. I started doing criminal cases in a certain kind of offense, and I was admitted actually in 37 states, and I travel in, and big shot, all that kind of stuff, and try cases. And then, if any of y'all been to John, is it Leho, is that how you pronounce his name? His talk, the cop from New York? It just being around him, just really something. But this happened, and most of you in this room saw this. I mean, most everybody got a chance to witness it on TV, or certainly saw the replay of it. I just so happened I was driving to work, and my office was 2 blocks from my house, and on the radio, the radio guy said, hey, an airplane just hit the World Trade Center. And I bet you I was like most of y'all. That first airplane, you're going, what? How does that happen? I mean, terrorism didn't even, I mean, not a thought it was terrorism. That's what I'm trying to say. It was like, was the pilot drunk? Would he have a heart attack? Something, you know, how does that happen? So you're sitting there and watching the smoke, because it's kind of interesting watching the smoke come out of the building. Now, at the time, I did not know people were jumping out of that building. I did not know that, because it was still kind of new. And then that second airplane hits. And I want to tell you something. It's so hard to even talk about that this day, because I'm watching that and just, I was taken back. And immediately you know we're under attack. And you know what? You don't expect to be attacked. I don't know how to say this, but I just did not expect that to happen. And as things became clearer, and we found the airplane that hits the Pentagon, and then those incredible Americans on Flight 93, I think, and that took that airplane down in Pennsylvania happens, I'm sitting there and I'm so angry, and then I'm also scared. I've got a son, you know, in school, so I drive out to school because you know, we don't know what's going on. I don't think any of us knew what was going on. So they said, well, we've got this, we're okay. So I left them there. I felt that'd be better than dragging around with me that day. So I was thinking, you know, I've got at the time he was a 10-year-old boy, and then I have a 16-year-old boy, and my girls were all grown. But I'm thinking, my boys are gonna have to deal with this, you know. And at 50, I felt pretty good. I'm going, you know, I think if I can get back in and fight these guys, and I'm gonna tell you, I'm not demonstrating anger, but I was mad. See, there's nothing we did to deserve this. And I've been around a lot of folks in the military, and I know what we stand for. One thing I do know what we stand for. We're good. We are good people. We are a good military. And I knew there was nothing we had done that deserved that. And so I was just outraged. And I just really felt I had to do something about it. So I could sit there and just rage at it, but I set forth trying to do something about it. And I want to stop here and say something for all you guys. There may be other defining moments in your life. For this was a defining moment in my life, okay? There may be others for you younger people, and maybe even us older guys, there might be. But for me now, and I've done some stuff in the last 6 years I didn't think I would ever do, and I'm talking about humiliating stuff. I've done some stuff, and I'll tell you about one of the things I've talked about before, but I've done some stuff that just humiliates me. But I don't care anymore. You know, I don't care. First off, I'm not too good to do it. I've never was too good to do it. And the second part of the deal is that's part of the contract, to be able to be part of something bigger than yourself. It's part of it. To do things you don't think you're better than, or that is humiliating. That's part of the deal, guys. It really is. If you want to be part of this, you're going to have to do some stuff you don't want to do. And you know, when I'm looking back, I really like the stuff I don't want to do. I'm telling you, I like it. I'm more proud of that than the stuff I wanted to do, because it's easy to do that stuff. So if this was a defining moment in your life, don't ever forget the way you felt. That's what I'm trying to say, because I find as a nation we're forgetting this. And that's why we're making some of the decisions we're making and doing things. You can take that to the micro level of yourself and why you would maybe get out, or you can take it to the national level of why you would, you know, treat detainees differently. I mean, we can argue about that. I'm just saying, for me, this keeps me going. This is the inspiration that makes the things I do worthwhile, because I don't ever see this happen again. And I want to kill the guys that did this. I will tell you right now, I want to kill them. And I still want to kill them. And I hope I never not want to kill them, because that's evil. All right, next slide. All right, so I started that morning trying to get back in the Guard. I called a friend of mine, and I've said this before, y'all have heard of him, Norty Schwartz. He was a J3, and I didn't know what that was. I still don't know what it is, but I know it's something big. He worked for Rumsfeld. And Norty is now the Chief of Staff of the Air Force, and we are so lucky to have him, because he's one of the greatest guys I've ever known. Now, he worked for me at the Academy. It sure didn't work out very well for me, but anyway, he worked for me, And Norty was always the straightest of straight arrows, you know, and I'm pretty comfortable with having a straight arrow as the chief of staff. I'm okay with that. That's good. And he's a real sharp guy, so I'm just delighted. And Norty and I have maintained our friendship. Another guy I called that day was a fellow by the name of Bruce Wright. His tactical call sign was Orville. And he became recently, and he retired from the 5th. He was the commander of 5th Air Force out in, I think it's Japan. Yokota, I think, was their base. I'm not sure. Is that where it is? Okay. Spud, when he was here, he was Spud. But Spud was as down-to-earth guy as there was. So I called both those guys, said, hey, I want to get back in the fight. And they go, well, you know, okay. You've lost your commission. And I found that out, by the way. If you decide to make this decision to get out, which is fine, if you don't do something with your commission after 5 years, you lose. Even doesn't matter reserve or a regular commission, you lose it. So I lost my commission, and they said, frankly, you're not really what we're looking for in the active duty service. So, and I understood that. They suggested the Guard. So I called a friend of mine at Buckley Air Base, and he was the wing commander. He was a lawyer, and he said, hey, we're going to make you the wing JAG. Slots open, we'll make you the wing JAG. I said, cool. So he said, send your package over. We're going to have a board, but you're going to get it. I said, okay, I like that. That's cool. I like that. So the day before the board, though, I get a call back from the person who really had a clue, who said, you know, Mr. Stayton, you're not qualified. I said, really? I've been practicing law 20-something years. And you know, major, I'm a fighter pilot, very handsome. You know, I didn't say that. But anyway, I said, I'm not qualified. He said, you know, you're not qualified because our regulations, if you're a major and you'd be coming back in as a major and you're older than 49, I mean, you can't be older than 49. That's the maximum age limit to come back in the JAG as an Air Force officer. I said, really? I said, how tough is it in those courtrooms? I mean, it must be a really physical process, so I'm too old to be in the courtroom. But what's interesting, I wasn't too old to be an infantry soldier. Yeah, that's kind of cool. But in both the Air Force courtrooms, it must be on when you go in the Air Force courtroom. I must be doing push-ups or something all day long. Anyway, they said it's non-waiverable, so I was disappointed. And the following summer, 2002, I was in Arkansas, and I had a hunting and fishing cabin there. Good old boy, I like to hunt and fish. I stopped in at this armory. I'd never set foot in an armory. And I walked in, and there was a recruiter in there, and I sat down and talked to him, and he thought I was in there about my sons, that, you know, trying to see if they could get into service. And I said, no, I told him I had a couple boys. And I said, really, it's about me. I want to see if I can get in. And he chuckled. And I told him a little bit about myself. He goes, well, he said, if you can pass the physical, we'll give you a tryout and then see if you can stay in the infantry. He said, there's two options here. You're either going to be a cook or you'll be in the infantry. But if you can't make the infantry, you ought to be a cook. At the time, you know what, I thought, oh, okay, I'll go cook for the guys. I just wanted to serve the country. So I went and passed the physical, except the hearing. They had to waive that. And then my package goes up to the Pentagon, and the recruiter calls me. He says, who do you know in the Pentagon? I said, well, I know a couple of guys. And he goes, your package left here 4 days ago, and it's back now, and you're approved in all areas, and you don't have to go to basic training, and you're fully MOS qualified. For you Air Force guys, MOS is like our AFSC. And I didn't know what that meant. Honest God, I said, well, what does that mean? He said, well, no, you're qualified fully to be a sergeant, an infantry sergeant in this unit. I said, wow. So I went to summer camp and had the tryout. And summer camp in 2003 was, you know, doing basic infantry stuff. And, you know, we're doing close combat, you know, shooting and walking and stuff like that. And then we did squad maneuvers, and I learned how to evaluate casualties and stuff. But now this is a newer picture, actually. Summer camp, we were still wearing the BDUs, and the mentality, even in 2003, was not as professional, because guys brought booze along and stuff like that on the evenings. I thought, this is pretty cool, you know, after the day was done, and drank and stuff. But we had not been immersed into the war on terror yet, so that changed. This is something that happened, and this is one of the things I want to tell you about that I never thought I would do in my entire life, but I did this. Now, that's not me. That's actually Lieutenant. But this guy right here could be me. Don't think it is, but what happened on the range, guys were bringing back shells that were unexpended, and if to turn them back in, I guess it requires paperwork, and they would take these rounds and throw them in the porta potty. All right, and battalion commander found out about it when the porta potty service guy started getting his tubes all clogged up with rounds. So this is a classic Army fix. We became porta potty guards, and so and I pulled several 3-hour shifts standing in front of that porta potty, and so when somebody would come in and do their business, I got to go check their work. And even then I thought it was funny, but how'd your day go, Dad? Well, it was kind of shitty. So we had to do that. I mean, that's an Army fix. That kind of stuff happens. And then I'll tell you another story, though. You hadn't heard this one. I'm a pretty old sergeant. I was only an E5. And I was walking down the street at Fort Hood. We were doing our train-up. And I had a 39th patch on, and a 39th officer, a captain, called me. He said, "Sergeant, come here." And so I ran over to him and saluted. "Yes, sir, can I help you?" He goes, and he looks at me, and you could see this look on his face because he's looking at me. He said, "Sergeant, do you know who your commander is?" And, I know I'm old, but, sir, I know my commander. It's Captain Pettigrew. He said, "Good, Sergeant. I have a package for Captain Pettigrew. Do you think you could deliver it to him?" And I said, "Sir, I think I can. I think I can get it to him." And he goes, and then this is the funny part of it, because I could really see the wheels turning. He's going, "What is this unit's story? I mean, this dude's really old. He's only a sergeant." And he going, "Now, Sergeant," he wouldn't give me the package. He said, "Now, Sergeant, we made you a sergeant because we think you can handle responsibility. Are you sure you can get this package to him?" And now I'm getting into it because I know what he's doing. I go, "Yes, sir, I can do this." And so he gave it to me, and I proudly, I did get that package to Captain Pettigrew. And I thought about that because I'm pretty sure I had a couple more degrees than the dude had, and all that kind of stuff. But, he didn't know me, and I can understand it. Again, that's back being full of myself. So, and I can understand with, God, what is this dude's story? I mean, he must, because we did have a sergeant at E5 who was like our groundskeeper. His name was Gully, and he probably couldn't have got the package to Captain Pettigrew. So, I kind of understand. I kind of understand the deal. Next slide. We went through train up at Fort Hood, and I learned, and I got to tell you this story because this is such a great story. I just love the Army, and I loved attacking them. We were, go back, can you go back? We were at Fort Hood, and this is the fall of '03. And I don't know if you guys remember how the war progressed, but the first 5 or 6 months, we just kicked ass, and everything was, mission accomplished, all that kind of stuff. But by the fall of '03, it started heating up. The insurgency started building, and they started getting this IED thing down. And so we're at the chow halls at Fort Hood, and we'd walk in, and we'd watch soldiers get blown up every day. I mean, some of them were on TV. So the morale was starting to kind of go down a little bit, and we're concerned because it did not look like the American Army was necessarily prepared for that threat. There wasn't enough armor in country at that time. They had those thin-skinned Humvees, and the IEDs can just do a number on them. So we're watching this go on, and guys they're getting a little antsy about their next deployment. And then what happened, about midway through the train up, our battalion commander comes in and says, "Great news, guys. Since we're an enhanced brigade, we're getting the up armor, the 1114 Humvees. And we're even going to get them here, and we're going to train in them." So morale went back up because we see the Army cares, all that. And we have a chance out there. And that was what really most soldiers just want, a chance out in the field. That's what they want, is to have just the possibility of surviving something like that. So that was pretty important for morale. Well, we were being trained by what they call in the Army the OC, the observers and controllers. And these were guys that are like me. They're E6s, E7s, E5s, some E4s. And then they always have officers somewhere lurking in the background. And, and for the most part, they're pretty good, except in 2003, we weren't being trained by any vets. So they're reading the stuff from the computer and the emails and stuff. They're trying to get this information to train us up well. And so we get these 1114s, and we're just so happy. And we bring them out to the field, and the OC's out there, and we're making them ready for our exercises and stuff. and the OC guys say, all right, guys, take the doors off. And I'm going, take the doors off. Yeah, you need to take those doors off, those up armors, because if you encounter insurgents, you cannot get out of that up armor in time to give chase to them. I said, you know, I really believe that the intent of spending that money was not to have a platform to launch insurgent raids, but was to protect the soldiers. I'm pretty sure that was the intent behind those up armored doors. And they, no, Sergeant, you've got your orders. So we took the doors off. And I mean, even Arkansas guys could figure out that was stupid. I mean, you know, you're going, this makes no sense at all. And we started complaining, and cooler heads prevailed, and probably somebody with an officer probably saw what was going on, and somebody changed it. Anyway, got to put the doors back on. So that was part of the process. Another story from Fort Hood, we had to learn how to identify IEDs. So we'd be walking around, and the scenario was if you spot one, you holler it out, and you mark it, and then you run off as far as you could. Keep your eyes on where the IED was, and then call in EOD. I did that. They had a couple of simulated 155 shells taped, and IED, and we backed off about 100 meters. And I'm standing there, and we got everybody spread out with security. And one of the problems with an IED, and I'll just train you guys a little bit, if you find an unexploded weapon, one of the things, your job now is secure the area so somebody else doesn't walk in there. So that's what we were doing. Well, so in 05, an Army 05 walks up to me, he goes, Sergeant, do you see that IED? And I said, yes, sir, I see it. He said, you don't see it. I said, well, I don't see it, but I see the building it's in. He said, well, you need to have eyes on that IED. I said, sir, it's in a little room, and I'd have to be like 8 meters from it to see it. He said, you need to have eyes on that IED. I said, sir, I'm sorry, and a pretty smart ass, if you can't tell. I said, no one briefed me that this was a suicide mission. I'm ready to comply. And so you may can understand why I haven't done so well. Yeah, but that's okay. Next slide. So we leave Fort Hood. I mean, that's stupid. You know, we sit there and look at, that's not what we're trained to do. And of course, that's not our SOP, but that's, you know, anyway. So we came over here the first time, and we operated, we lived in this area. I was with Alpha Company. Our battalion was split up. Alpha Bravo Company was here. Charlie Company went up here with the 1st Cav. We had a 1st Cav detachment with some Bradleys with us, but there was a battalion called the 19 Cav up here. Our sister company, Charlie, went up here, and they operated in this AO, which was the Haifa Street AO. I don't know if any of you guys have followed the war, but in 04, 05, this was the center of evil in Baghdad, Haifa Street. That's where all the problems were. And I will tell you right now, Charlie Company, in the first 5 months, had 1 KIA, one of the finest soldiers that ever put a uniform on, was blown up by a 155 shell in the wall, and he was set up. They knew exactly what they were doing. They exploded a small device. The patrol moved over next to where that explosion happened. They had buried, cemented a 155 shell in the wall. When Troy Miranda kneeled down to check things out, they blew that, killed him, killed his interpreter, and took the legs off of 2 other soldiers. In addition, that area, there was a tremendous amount of insurgent activity, and their weapon of choice was primarily the grenade. And so the first 4 months, there was, like I said, 1 KIA, 2 seriously wounded soldiers, and 79 Purple Hearts in the first 4 months from grenades. So that it was really on. Now over here, Alpha Company and Bravo patrolled this area, and I don't know if y'all can see it, but I won't go into it. But we had a name for it. But there was some stuff that happened, but nothing really. I mean, there was some stuff, not a whole lot. We did have a car bomb here that killed one of our soldiers at a checkpoint 11. And but for the most part, this area was called called Peninsula, but it was a very peaceful area. So by August, it was pretty clear to Sergeant Stayton that he wasn't going to get a lot of action down here. And so our sister company was really being decimated. And so I asked if I could move up there. And there's another story, but I'm not going to tell that. They were pretty glad to see me leave. So I got to go up here. I wasn't a real favorite of my battalion commander. Something happened, I won't tell you about it, but Norty Schwartz plays a role in it. Anyhow, I got to Charlie Company and got immersed in that activity. Next slide. this was our building we stayed in, and this is right before we're about to step on a mission. Now, in the Army, it's like the Air Force. You get a mission, and we would have, depending on the size of the mission, it might be 6, 8, 12 hours before we actually move. And the reason we would do that is because things are pretty complicated in the Army. There's lots and lots and lots of moving parts. And you've got guys, a lot of guys have GEDs and that type of thing. So what you do rehearsals. So we would have our mission. We would go out and actually rehearse. We would rehearse making turns on streets. We'd rehearse opening doors, how we'd enter buildings, what we look for. We'd rehearse it. And that was fine. We'd also have to start checking our equipment. And that's the guy right there, Charlie Reynolds. He doesn't have a tooth in his head, but he's one of the best shots we ever had. I mean, this dude could shoot. And Arkansas guys can shoot, I'll tell you that. They start shooting at about 6 because that's when they're given their first air rifle. And deer hunting's a national holiday there. They close the schools down, man. And I support that. I think that's cool. So anyway, the thing about it is we would have to check each other. We have our ammo pouches. We'd carry 7 mags with our typical combat loads, 210 rounds. This dude was a 203 gunner. He'd also had about 8 grenades that he could shoot. We had hand grenades on our pouches. We were one of the few soldiers in theater who were given authority to throw grenades back because we were getting grenaded so much. Most of the guys couldn't throw grenades, didn't even get them, but they gave them to us because we could throw back. But what we would do, we'd come out here and we'd check each other for equipment and make sure we had everything. And I'll tell you why. I learned some stuff I've learned a lot of stuff in the Army. I've learned a great deal of things in the Army. I'm very happy to have done that. One of the things I learned is you don't cut corners. And you know, and I'll tell you right now, I cut corners some in the Air Force. As fighter pilot, it was almost blasphemous to use your checklist. I mean, what do you mean? I should know this stuff. Well, you know, there's probably a reason there's a checklist. We wouldn't do that. And then there's some stuff, I would go below minimum fuel a few times. I certainly would go below Joker, then bingo. And I've landed, and I was just hoping it wouldn't flame out, tacking back in. So, I mean, that's stuff that I'm not proud of, stuff I did. I got in the Army, and I didn't realize how important attention to detail and how important the 4 standards were until we went on some missions. And one day, we had a casualty, and we didn't bring a litter. One of the soldiers in each squad is designated to carry what's known as a polis litter. It only weighs a pound, it's a bag. And you can take that litter out, put the casualty on it, and it's got handholds, and the soldiers can evacuate them from the scene. We forgot to bring it. And I'll tell you, I wasn't part of it, so I'm not going to take blame for it, but I would if it's my fault. But what happened, here's the process. The kid goes, oh, probably not going to happen anyway. When his sergeant checked him, his sergeant goes, we probably not going to need it. And boy, from that one instant, never do I ever say those words again. Because we had a casualty, and we almost couldn't get him out. But we commandeered a shopping cart. This lady had a shopping cart, and we just took it, so, you know. And we got him out, but it was tough. It was a tough way to learn a lesson, but I'm glad I did learn that lesson. So now I've learned, I'm going to take care of my soldiers. I'm going to love my soldiers. I'm going to really be there for them. I'm going to make sure they conform to standards. If I care about my soldiers, I'm going to make sure they meet standards. I'm not going to do them any favor by not letting them take their equipment. All right, and one of us in this team has to be responsible for it, and so I've chosen me to be responsible for it. Next slide. This is the kind of ops we had, patrols. This was the epicenter of evil. Those are Bradleys. I love the Bradleys. We could only go in this area with Bradleys because the RPG threat was so great. This was Talil Square, the site of many battles, gun battles, and this was a place called the Bakery. We had soldiers hurt there before we leveled it. Grenade alleys right along here in Purple Heart Lane. Those were aptly named. These are 16-story buildings that were used some by the insurgents. We had to clear every one of them manually go up the stairs. And this is, remember, this is August, September. It's pretty hot, no air conditioning, no elevators. You go up the stairs and get to the top. Then we went through and opened every apartment building up, knocked the doors open. Because, and I've joked about this, but I didn't understand this thinking. They were all locked up. but we had to go in and clear them, so we opened all the doors so the terrorists, who probably had a housing problem, we solved it for them. And they were, here guys, you can stay here because these rooms are open now. And we'd be out here in sector for a few hours, and then we'd go back to Headhunter, which is over here, and then the insurgents would own the streets. They would kill people that work for us. If you got stopped and you worked for the government and had an ID, they would blow your head off. And I'm not exaggerating that. We would find people every day on the streets or in the river with their heads blown off because we didn't own the streets. We rented them for a couple hours. And I felt really bad about that. I did. I felt that we weren't serving these people very well. Next slide. Typical area. You guys know what this is right here? Raw sewage. All right. This little girl, I think it's a little girl. That's, by the way, that's our squad. I'm around the back of the corner. I was either point, and this guy's pointing on this case, or I was rear security. But this is the kind of area we patrolled, and you can see the tactical problems that would give you, especially from the roofs. And that's why we had so many casualties, because of the grenades. And so you wonder, why even going in there? And I actually wondered that. I wonder why, but we were told to. And so we did that. Now, one of the things this could be, this particular mission, you saw those high rises? We started getting Navy SEALs. They came in, and the Navy SEALs were pretty good. They were good shots. And they were our snipers. And they could observe this sector, and they could actually, from time to time, see people attacking us, like flowing to us and throwing grenades, and they'd shoot them. So we started doing what we call Operation Bait. And this is pretty cool to be bait. But we'd come through here waiting to get hit, and hopefully the SEALs would take them out. Next slide. This is also raw sewage. Now, I want you, this happened a lot in the sector, unfortunately, but take this picture, go back to the one back, and put that water in this narrow environment. This happened on a mission one night. I told you the Navy SEALs had shot a couple of guys. They didn't kill them. They said they did it on purpose. I think they just missed the shots. But they said, oh, we wanted to see where their safe house was. We just wounded these dudes. So they had their CASEVAC team. The insurgents have a CASEVAC team too. They had their CASEVAC team come out and take these dudes to a house. And then they shot a guy over here, and they took them to the same house. So they said, that must be the safe house. So a couple nights after that, we go in and take the safe house, hoping to find these guys. And I was going to joke, say finish the job. But we would have done that. We would have brought them into custody. But we were going to get these guys. And they were gone, but there were 3 teenagers in there, and one of the teenagers, a kid, was scared to death of the Americans, and he started telling us about this stuff. And what we'd had, by the way, in this sector, we'd had three soldiers killed over a 6-week period of time. 2 of them were Bradley drivers. One had been shot here as he was turning, and he was pointing, and they shot him underneath here. Pretty damn good shot, because no body armor, and the guy knew that. Another one was shot here. Again, a good shot. And by the way, our teams estimate those shots were at 300 meters or beyond. And if anybody knows weapons, that's a hell of a shot. That is a hell of a shot. And the third guy was actually, I was out on the street, and I was just down the street from him, and I was doing the same job he was. I was pulling what we call an OP. I was trying to watch our patrols in sector and provide overwatch for them. This sergeant was down the street doing overwatch for the patrol, and the sniper shot him right in the face. So he'd killed 3 of our soldiers in 6 weeks. When this kid, we caught him, and guys would tell us stuff all the time. He said, I know the sniper, I know the sniper. Okay, that's fine, yeah, sure. He knew everything about the shootings. He knew that there was a black soldier, a brown soldier, Hispanic, and a white soldier. He knew exactly where they'd been shot. So we knew he knew. He had to know, because they were so scattered around sector. So they tell us, where he tells us where the target is. My squad's job was to come down an alley this way, turn, and then go up one of these houses and do overwatch on the target's house, because all these roofs in Baghdad are interconnected. You could go a couple blocks, seriously. Well, not a couple blocks, but you can go, hundreds of meters on people's roofs, just climbing over walls, because that's how they're connected. So there was they were afraid he'd escape through the roof. So my job was to overlook his roof. So we came around the corner. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning, and that water you saw in that wide area was in this narrow area, and it was up to our knees in raw sewage.
And for 50 meters, we waded through raw sewage. And we then got to the house we're supposed to go into. We knocked on the door, and it was poor people. You know, we had 8 soldiers coming in with like shit all over their uniforms. We said we want to go to the roof, and they weren't going to argue with us. I mean, we had automatic weapons. They go, yeah, sure, no problem. So they let us go to the roof, and we set up OP, and sure enough, we tell the other squad we're in place, and we could see what looked to me like a couple of kids down there, teenage boys, in their courtyard, and the squad comes around and goes into their courtyard, and one of these guys goes in the house and gets up on the roof. He's starting to climb over the wall, and I hollered at him and showed him my M4, and he got down, and they caught him. So now we got the detainees. They took 2 of them out, and I called back the Army. I like to show Army mentality here a little bit. I called back to my commander. Actually, one of the commander was the guy who was running this op, and said, look, we had to come to this alleyway, and there's like 50 meters of shit water. Can we, if we come out and hang a right and go down another alley, we miss all of it. We asked permission to go back that way. No. What, now, wait, you understand what I'm saying? No, you can't do it, Sergeant. You gotta, okay, so we had to go back through the 50 meters. There was no sense in that. I mean, none, but we got back in there. When I got back to Bradley's, the discussion ensued about what we were going to do with the detainees. There was 2. There was the shooter who, guys, was 19 years old. 19 years old. About this tall and looked like he's 13. If you know the Iraqis, they look younger to us than their age. And then his little brother who was 14. One of the guys that was escorting the shooter was a Bradley driver, an E6. And I do not remember his name, but he was one of the finest soldiers I knew. But they wanted me to get in the back with him on the little brother to make sure, you know, there's a lot of emotion there. Now, really, he probably should have been watching me more than me watching him, but I was watching him just to see that he be okay. And I want to tell you something. See, I need to emphasize this, how good the American military is. I watched him. We had to go about 3 clicks in the back of that Bradley. And not one time did that E6 ever say or do anything to the shooter at all that was improper. He basically watched him, looked straight ahead, and you knew he was in turmoil, and you knew he hated this guy because he killed good friends that he'd been to war with. And I'm telling you guys, you get so close to those, they are truly your brothers. And I'm sitting over there on the other end of the Bradley, I'm watching them because I'm worried about them. My guy was just crying. I was telling him, and it's true, it's going to be okay. We're Americans. And I was telling him, we're Americans. We're not going to hurt you. You may go into custody, but we're not going to hurt you. You'll be fine. And I was watching the guy, and I was so proud of him. We pulled up to Headhunter, and they dropped the ramp, and he escorted the detainee into custody, and he turned around, and he walked off. Pure professionalism. And that's the American military that I know. All right, next slide. Next slide. That's a picture of a firefight we got in on Toledo Square. That happened a lot. They weren't very good shots. Now, I just talked about 3 soldiers. Generally, they weren't very good shots. And there's a difference between being shot at and well-aimed fire. Most of the time it wasn't well-aimed fire. Go ahead. Most every mission, next slide. Most every mission, and I'm not kidding you, we would find 1 or 2 or 3 carloads of weapons out there. That's how much the weapons were. I mean, this is the typical stuff. I mean, this is from a mission. I just took a picture. I could have picked 10 of them. More rockets, mortars, that's a Dragunov. They also, that's a nice scope on a German scope, but they also had, we found night vision scopes out in section. So, next slide. That was my fire team. He was the oldest soldier besides me, right there, Clint Owens, 24. He's now a state trooper in Oklahoma. And he was 19 years old and 23 years old and 21 years old at the time. And the next slide, that's my squad. Next slide. The second time over there, we didn't do so much. We were over here initially at RPC. Next slide. We patrolled the area at Bacosib, just south of the BIOP, the airport. Nothing happened. Nothing happened at all. I mean, I'm glad. I mean, nothing happened. Go ahead, next slide. We wouldn't do this on Haifa Street, I promise you. We would never have done this on Haifa Street. All stand around together and like laugh. Wouldn't have happened. Next slide. About midway through tour, we got moved to FOB Prosperity. Next slide. We manned a checkpoint. The checkpoint was at the north of the IZ. We processed 3,000 Iraqi civilians through in an 8-hour period of time and 500 vehicles. The threat was snipers, suicide vest bombers, and car bombers. They blew up some Iraqis. They never hurt us. Go ahead. That's part of the checkpoint. That's the checkpoint. One of my team leaders. He's 26 years old. A good kid. He's a cop. And they would come through, and we'd search each one of them 2 or 3 times, and put them through electronic screener. And out here is Haifa Street, by the way. So that was pretty cool. Next slide. All right. Comparison to 2 tours. You can see first tour was 12 months. In my brigade, we had 17 soldiers killed. And I don't know how many Purple Hearts. I know it was at least 100, but I couldn't find the research numbers on it. But I know it was at least 100. We had almost that in my company alone. So I know it was at least over 100. And then the second tour, 8 months, and this number's correct. No KIA and no Purple Hearts. It was amazing. So there's a big difference over there. So now we're home. Our dwell time is about 15 months, 18 months or so. In about 18 to 24 months, they're going to start talking about going to Afghanistan maybe. I don't know. We'll see what happens. So on that. I just want to close this out because it's just about over. But I want to tell you this. Some people, and I think I had them take it out. Somebody said I was a hero, and I'm telling you the truth. I'm not a hero at all. Because I haven't done anything else anybody else has done. I mean, I haven't done anything else that the other E6s in my unit have done. They do the same job I do. But what I am grateful, and I'm very happy to be able to do what I'm going to do. I don't know what I do. I don't know if that's important or not, but I'll say this. I am the luckiest guy in this room because I get to be a part of something that's a lot bigger than myself. And you know, these last 5 days, you know, I've enjoyed myself, but not the talking and all that kind of stuff. I've enjoyed seeing these great people around here. I've enjoyed the energy from you guys, senior energy. I've enjoyed that. I've enjoyed seeing the interest that our community and our people have in the defense of this country. It is so great, and the chiefs out here from Orange County with some of his people, it is so great to be part of something bigger than yourself. It really, truly is. I am the luckiest guy in this room. I want you to know that. And I am so happy to be a staff sergeant in the United States Army. God bless you guys, and God bless the United States. Thank you.